Ford started coming out with more engine families because Chevy had 5 different brands all developing their own engines in-house, so they each had their own V8 engine department. So Ford, after the Ford Edsel did not succeed, they decided to put their focus into engine families. So they went from, for example, the Y block to the Ford Edsel engines, to the Windsor engines, to the Cleveland engines. They had the 385 big block. They eventually went to the modular engines, where Chevy sort of consolidated all their engines. They eventually went to the corporate engine. So what is different between a Ford V8 engine and a Chevy V8 engine or small block engine? And it really comes down to engine families or blocks. Now with Chevy engines, they just refer to the cubic inch displacement and the block. So let's say 350 small block or a 427 big block on a Yanko Camaro. Those are the ways you identify Chevy engines. You don't really identify the plant. Now with most popular engine for the 9th generation, if not the turbo coupe, and then for a short period they had what's called the SX V6, which just like the Windsor V8, the SX V6 was also made in Canada as well. And then they finished off the 10th generation, is where in 1994 they finally dropped the 302, which was a pushrod engine, and they came out with the first single overhead cam modular engine. So the most common question I'm getting right now is what Ford Thunderbird years were the most popular, which generations were the most popular, and which V8 engines came with each generation, and which ones are the ones to look out for. So when the first generation came out, it was only a 2-seater, and it had the first Y block, which was the 292, and they even eventually offered a 314 Y block. Now eventually what they did when they switched from the 4th generation to the 5th generation, this is where they started to phase out the FE engines, because they still had the FE 390 and they still had the FE 428. They came out with the 429 Cobra Jet, which is based on the 385. So that was the first time they switched away from the FE engines and went to the what's called the Lima big block engine. Number one, they wanted to know which Ford Thunderbird was the best selling of all time. It's actually the 7th generation from 1977 to 1979. It was actually not as popular as the Ford Mustang, but it's probably as iconic, if not more iconic, considering it was out 9 years before the Mustang was ever released. A lot of people don't know that the Ford Thunderbird came out only 2 years after the Chevy Corvette, and then the Mercury Cougar was its stablemate as well.